Hey there, you're listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion. Here's your host, RJ Carbone.
And a high drive in the left center field. Stanley's going to watch another one fly. Are you kidding me? DiVincenzo a three. Bang! Bang! Knicks take a
Take this time to apologize to absolutely nobody.
At the wall. See ya! See ya! See ya! Mr. Nova.
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down and the game is tied.
You shook up the world again.
I did it again. My God did it, man. I really just had
Gonna have to. Brunson running away. Oh my! He has been the best player to put on that uniform.
Ball game over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
Well, we are almost here, folks. Pitchers and catchers will be reporting in just a couple of days. The Super Bowl is tomorrow night, and the minute that game ends, it's officially baseball season. But we are officially into the segment of the offseason where we start previewing these Yankees. And so that's what we're going to get into in this episode. This is going to be part one. Okay, it's part one of our Yankees 2025 season preview. Now, throughout the month of February here, as I'm recording, it's February 8th. Throughout this month, we're going to have multiple parts to this little series, preview series. And in the remaining episodes, we will have a couple guests join us. I'm looking to get at least 2, probably 3 guests this month to talk about the upcoming season and preview some things here. So that's what's to come regarding the rest of this month as we get into spring training and as camp is set to begin. But welcome to our first part of the Yanks 2025 season preview. And we have a lot to get into in this episode alone. So it's probably going to be one of the longer episodes. And man, I'm excited. You know, I think as much as we complain during the off season and as much as we are antsy and anxious and want them to do this and don't want them doing this. And I think every baseball fan of every team, no matter who, just gets excited around this time because it's a fresh slate. Everybody's 0-0. You know, you haven't lost anything yet. You haven't won anything yet. So everybody has the same chance right now to head into this season on a new note. And so that's the beauty. It's the beauty of sport. But I want to get into some things before we dive into the specifics. You know, some recent news. Cashman went on Yes Hot Stove and spoke to them about Gleyber Torres. That's been making a lot of noise and some other things. Now, the Gleyber stuff, I don't even want to touch on this stuff. I'll briefly run through it. I don't give a damn. I'm not going to lie. I could not care less about the drama part of this shit. So let's just be straightforward. He said exactly what the Yankees were planning to do. You know, they acquired Jazz Chisholm to play second base. And the plan was to move Torres to third base. Torres, as we can remember, said, no, I'm a second baseman. Refused to give in, despite being a horrible second baseman and the metrics backing that up. He was adamant, I'm playing second base. And this great communicator of a manager we have apparently couldn't talk him into playing third base, so he gave in, and he said, okay, sure, we're a second baseman in the league, you could play second base. So the Yankees went forward, and they tried to go with the idea of keeping Torres at second and having Jazz learn third base on the fly. And it worked, to a degree. Jazz had some growing pains, but, Gleyber Torres didn't really improve at second base, as we saw during the postseason. But that's what he told Yes the other night. He said, well, we acquired Jazz to play second. Torres didn't want to move to third. He just said that. And so Torres got upset about it. He went to Twitter like most modern athletes do. He cried about it, wrote some shit. He said, you're still on this, turn the page, something like that. And then he deletes it. I don't know. That's it. Should Cashman have mentioned his name? I'm hearing that. Like, what do you mean? Like, all he was doing was explaining the situation. What else do you want him to do? I don't know. Now, do the Yankees pick and choose when to be politically correct sometimes and when to not be? Yeah. They have certain guys where they're going to speak in certain ways with, and Torres has been unfairly called out by the Yankees. And, we've seen that over the years. That's happened. I don't personally think what others call unfair is unfair. I think a lot of that was granted. And in a situation like what happened the other night, Cashman speaking and talking about Torres and second base and third base, I didn't see anything wrong with that either. I don't like when the Yankees are politically correct, to be honest with you. I like when Cashman's transparent. So I didn't have a problem with the Yankees saying what they did. And then, they asked Cashman about the other aspects on the team. They said, I think Kay asked him, are you happy with the club overall? And he's like, yeah, I would say I'm excited. I like the well-roundedness. I like that we added swing and miss in the bullpen. I like the addition to the rotation that we made. They asked him about the leadoff spot and didn't say much, but he did say that he knows that Aaron Boone is leaning toward a specific Yankee. And by guess, that's probably, I don't know. It's either Dominguez, Chisholm, or Bellinger. That's my guess. Kay asked him about left field, center field, that situation. He said it was still up in the air. And that he's going to see what happens in camp. So it doesn't seem like they're hell-bent yet on the whole Dominguez going back to left field thing, which is good. Maybe Dominguez shows them something and they give him some reps in center field and in spring training, and maybe that becomes his spot. They asked him about third base. He said it's still going to be up in air between Jazz at second or third, and it depends who's on the mound on what given day. And then he also mentioned the potential platoon or battle at a camp between Peraza, Cabrera, Vivas, and the dreaded ghost of DJ LeMahieu. When asked about backup catcher, he, said it was tough trading Trevino, blah, blah, blah. And then he also said they are considering the market and they're also comfortable going in-house. And he mentioned Alex Jackson as a possibility because he's comfortable catching Fernando Cruz, who is the reliever that came over in that deal. He was asked about Stroman, and he said, from what he was saying, like the way it sounded like the Yankees were preparing to keep him, which is just lovely. He was just saying things like, he's better than what you saw in the second half. He was, the defense let him down, and he was bringing up the home road splits and blah, blah, blah. Sounds like they're trying to condition Yankees fans into living with reality that they can't find a trade partner for Stroman because there's much better value on the market. So I'm sure teams are like, well, we can get somebody who can do equal to or similar for much less. And that's the situation the Yankees are in with Stroman. And then he was asked about the bullpen, and he said he likes it a lot. versus what he saw last year. And again, he brought up the swing and miss, how Williams and Cruz and Lasagna and Leiter are going to help with that a full season here in the Bronx. So that's basically it on the Cashman front. And I'm very excited for the season, man. And I want to talk a lot about what my thoughts are, not just Cashman's. So we'll get to that stuff when we return from our first break here. And episode 800, by the way, welcome to episode 800 of BD4. Cannot believe we've made it this far and still don't have any traffic. Stay with us. We'll be right back. BD4 is available on social media for those who want to follow. You can find BD4 on Instagram at BD4Pod. You can find us on X at BD4Pod. And you can find us on Facebook by simply searching BD4. Okay. Where do we want to start? The lineup. So, overall, you lost Gleyber Torres. You lost Alex Verdugo, Anthony Rizzo, Jose Trevino, and you lost some other guy who went to some team in Queens. Forget his name. And then you're bringing in Bellinger. You're bringing in Goldschmidt. You're bringing in Jason Dominguez for a full season now. You're getting Jazz Chisholm for a full season. And you could say you're getting Austin Wells full-time because he really didn't take over that job until a month and a half, 2 months in. So it's an interesting lineup. My rule of thumb has always been produce a top 10 offense. If you can produce a top 10 offense, I feel like you've got a shot to win a title. In fact, the last 10 World Series champions have all been top 10 in runs scored and in OPS. And the last time something like that didn't happen was the San Francisco Giants in 2014, where they were closer to middle of the pack. But since then, each of the last 10 winners have been top 10 in runs and in OPS. The Dodgers, the Astros, the Rangers, Braves, Nationals, Red Sox, Cubs, all the way back to the Royals in 2015. In this current Yankees lineup, I think we all know they're not going to be number one, number two, top three in offense again, whatever they were, without he who shall not be named. But the question is, can they still produce enough offense to be World Series caliber, to be top 10? And I understand, you have to take into account pitching and base running and defense. That all matters. And the Yankees have, because Cashman did such a great job addressing those specific flaws this past winter, the Yankees have the upside to be at least above average in all three of those aspects. I think we have to give them credit for that. But offensive production dominates the sport today. And so that's my rule of thumb. I need to see this offense still be enough to be top 10. And they've got some strengths. I think everybody loves the balance. You're maintaining some really good balance up and down 1 to 9. Dominguez and Cabrera are your switch bats. You've got lefties and Jazz, Wells, Bellinger, Grisham. Goldschmidt is a righty who hits left-handed pitching very well. You have a good blend of youths and veterans, right? Goldie, Stanton, Judge, even Bellinger are your vets. They're going to mentor these younger players. They're going to mentor Volpe, Wells, Dominguez, Cabrera. So that's good. So I think there's an upside. I think there's an upside for a lot of these guys to hit. There's a chance that the Yankees have more depth in this lineup 1-9 than they did last year. There's a chance. There's a world out there where there's a lot more depth. Judge is the best hitter on the planet. Goldschmidt is a former MVP, future Hall of Famer. He's an upgrade over Rizzo. Stanton, another former MVP, probably going to be a Hall of Famer. Still productive. Bellinger's a 2-time All-Star. He's won a Silver Slugger. Jazz is a solid bat who got even better with the Yankees last year. Austin Wells is coming off a season where he was 3rd in Rookie of the Year. Dominguez, this is your prized prospect. He's finally getting the opportunity. Etc., etc. Up and down, there's a lot of guys there that have a chance to produce above average MLB offense. And the projections are very kind to this lineup. Fangraphs, at least the Steamer projections, say that the Yankees are going to have 8 of their 9 spots in the lineup 100 or higher in terms of WRC+, which values offensive production and base running combined. So there's a world out there where this offense can be top 10. I think that's possible. I also think it's a bit of a double-edged sword. I think it's possible that they're not that great. I don't think it's going to be as bad. And I may have said this in the past because I was speaking on emotion. I don't think it's going to be as bad as 2023, even at their worst. I think there's enough here to at least guarantee they'll be better than that thing that was out there. As long as the captain stays healthy, knock on wood. But there are questions. There are questions regarding what their floor could be. Because Paul Goldschmidt is declining. Cody Bellinger has had a roller coaster of a career. Giancarlo Stanton is older, and you worry about his health. Anthony Volpe took a step back last year. Is Austin Wells going to have a sophomore slump? That could easily happen. He struggled towards the end. Dominguez, he's completely unproven. Last year's Yankees, as much as we bitched and complained, they had 6 bats that were above league average in terms of OPS+. Judge, Stanton, when Jazz came over, Wells, Torres finished above, and number 22. 2 of those guys are gone. And so now it's going to be up to Goldschmidt, Bellinger, Volpe, Dominguez to kind of fill that void. So it's a lot of ifs. You don't even know who's going to be hitting from that third base spot. Are they going to have enough power? Right? You lost 40 home runs with number 22 alone. Not to mention you lost more with Torres, Verdugo, and Trevino and Rizzo combined. Do you have enough pop? Who else besides Aaron Judge is a lock for 30 homers, 800 OPS? I don't think you could staple anybody in as a lock for that, and that's the issue. You would like to have a little more assurance. You know, I mentioned the top 10 in offense stuff. In the last 5 years, those same ball clubs were also top 5 in home runs. Are the Yankees going to produce top 5 in homers this year? There's a world where they definitely don't do that. I'm worried a little bit about the on-base percentage. Right? The on-base percentages might not be high. You lost number 22. This guy was on base, 45% of the time? Gleyber Torres. Not really a high on-base guy, but can work a walk. He showed that down the stretch. He got on base more. Anthony Rizzo could at least walk for you. You know. The guys you brought in, Bellinger's not really an on-base guy. Goldschmidt at this point in his career, not much of an on-base guy. I don't know. So you go up and down the batting order. You go around the diamond, and there are just some question marks. There are a few spots that are still left unanswered. Who's going to lead off for this team? You know, Boone mentioned it could be Jazz or Dominguez a couple of weeks ago when he spoke. I think Jazz has the speed. I think he's got the power. It's cool to start off games with a lefty if there's a righty on the mound. He's also a very free swinger. I like Jazz lower in the order. Is it Dominguez? He's got the speed. He's got the power. He takes a lot of walks. He's also a young player. You kind of want to see him earn it first. You don't want it to become a Volpe situation where he's going to start pressing and bringing up a different approach when he's in the number one spot. Is it Bellinger? Speed, check. Power, potentially check. Contact, definitely check. Hitting in front of Judge will definitely help Bellinger. I think he's going to be your leadoff guy. I think that's what you're going to see. I like Bellinger better in the number 2 spot, but it's probably going to be where Judge is. You know, I mentioned in one of our recent Yankees episodes, you know, Judge has batted leadoff before. He's got a great eye. He's got the obvious power. It'll get him the most at-bats. I don't know. But you're weakening 2, 3, 4. Well, I don't think he's going to bat 4, but you're weakening 2 or 3. I think the order, and shout out to Russ Lidke, who we've had on the show. He put out a batting order on his Instagram. Go check him out on Instagram at NYYankeeDad. Russ put out a lineup on his Instagram story. I think he nailed it. I think he's got it down what the Yankees are going to roll out 1-9, bearing any additions. And what he put out there, let's see if I can pull it up here on my notes. He's got Bellinger leading off, Judge batting second, Dominguez batting third, Stanton at cleanup, Jazz batting fifth, Goldschmidt batting sixth, Wells batting seventh, Cabrera eighth, Volpe ninth. So that is what Russ had on his story. I think that is precisely what the Yankees do. I think that's a pretty good idea. Now, obviously, they might switch 3 and 4, maybe 4 and 5, depending on if there's a lefty starter or a righty starter out there. But this might be what they do, and it's not a bad order. I like the fact that it's staggered. Right, left, right, switch. Right, left, switch, right. As long as it is Cabrera out there. I like that balance. Again, I like Bellinger leading off. I like having him in front of Judge. I like the protection there for Bellinger. Dominguez batting third. It's a lot of pressure, yeah. But I also think at the same time, let's stop babying people. Let the kid go out there and just play. I don't know. And if you're sliding Judge and Bellinger up, who else is really going to bat third? I like Stanton at cleanup. And then Goldschmidt, I like him sixth. I think it makes sense to bat him sixth. Less pressure for him. He's not, he doesn't have the pressure of being the main guy like he was with the Cardinals. And you go all the way down to the bottom. Volpe batting ninth. I've always liked that. I think that makes sense. But you got to figure out what you're going to do at third base. I don't know. I've heard so many different things that the Yankees aren't done, that the Yankees are done. Different content creators, different reporters. You really don't know at this point. Talk is talk. the Yankees are definitely, they've mentioned that they're waiting. They're waiting for prices to drop. I also think they're trying to clear Stroman so they can stay under the tax. And if you make a move now, you're over the tax, and then you're stuck with Stroman. So I think they want to make sure they can clear him first. But while doing all of this, while waiting for prices to drop, while waiting for a Stroman partner, like, they're missing out on solid alternatives that would be significantly better than Cabrera, LeMahieu, Peraza, etc. Right? So many alternatives. And first of all, let me just say, it's crazy. It's crazy that Alex Bregman can't even be in our thoughts, right? Like, you mentioned Alex Bregman, and people right away will tell you that's unrealistic. And you're probably like, yeah, you're right. That's crazy that we are in the situation where the Yankees have created this fake budget to where we can't think about Alex Bregman. Because they want to spend, but they can't spend more than X amount. How dare they go past this final tax? So Bregman, who is my number one preferred third base option, don't see that happening. My number two, I would probably say, is a Brendan Donovan trade, but I don't think that's going to happen either at this point. You haven't heard shit there. I know the arbitration thing happened, but I think they'll either figure it out or somebody else gets him. But you missed out on Ha-Seong Kim because you're waiting so long. He's off the market. Maybe his $29 million was too much for the Yankees budget, though. Can't tell me Jorge Polanco was too much. I didn't love him. But, like, that's better than what you have. And he's also cheap. He's making less than 10. I think it's 7, 9, somewhere around that ballpark. But again, missed out on him because you're waiting to clear Stroman. Moncada, we talked about him last time we spoke. He's gone. Angels got him for $5 million. Another guy who would have been a lot better than the alternatives that you have, and a lot cheaper than paying a guy a bunch of money, which you're not willing to do. Rengifo's off the market, made an arbitration deal. And now you're starting to hear the last couple of days these Nolan Arenado rumors. Jesus. I don't know, man. I'm good. That's a hard pass for me. Listen, he's had a hell of a career. We all know this. But he's a declining veteran at this point. His OPS has been dipping the last couple of years. 3 years ago it was 891. Dipped to 774 in 2023. And then that dipped to 719 last year. He can't hit the ball hard anymore. The bat speed's gone. There's been a steady decline in the metrics every year. Last year, he was 20th percentile or worse in all of expected slugging, exit velo, barrel percentage, and hard hit rate. He's not hitting the ball hard. He's also a pull-heavy bat. You bring a pull-heavy bat, one that's not hitting the ball too hard, inside of Yankee Stadium with that left field. I don't know. That's been a big knock on Bregman. Arenado's not even hitting the ball very hard at all. It's not an ideal contract. And I know there's some deferred payment in there, but it's still that he's like getting $2 million plus each year. And I think Colorado's still eating some money, or the Card. There's a weird thing with this contract. I don't know the full thing, but it's still not a favorable contract for the drop off in production. And I don't want him affecting the Yankees' future spending. And I know I've said that I'm all about the right now, and I am, but with certain guys. Like, I wouldn't mind paying Bregman 5-6 years because he's still a very productive bat, and people act like he's 33 years freaking old. He's 29 years old. I was high on, going over the first base, I was high on Christian Walker because he's coming off the 3 best seasons he's ever had, despite his age. And it's only 3 years. That's easy. But with Nolan Arenado, he's already regressed enough to where he's an average bat. Bregman last year was a 118 OPS plus still. Arenado's on path to take that Donaldson or DJ LeMahieu route if he keeps regressing. And I will say, if the Yankees do decide to pull through with an Arenado trade, there are benefits. If you're into the big, if you're into the whole clubhouse culture thing, he's a good leader. He's a guy who's a long-time respected veteran in this league. He's been in the MLB since 2012, 2013. He doesn't have a ton of postseason experience, but he's got a gold medal, right? He won that with Team USA in the WBC 2017. But the on-the-field stuff, like, he's still an amazing glove. Talking about a 10-time Gold Glove winner, a 6-time Platinum Glove. He's a really good third baseman. The defensive metrics are still very high on him, even with the offensive production dropping off. Which, can he still maybe be an average bat? Last year he batted .272 with a 101 OPS plus. Which, again, it's better than Cabrera. It's better than LeMahieu. It's better than Peraza. So can he rebound? Sure. But, again, bringing in an Arenado, you're adding in another if. You're adding in another if to a lineup full of ifs. But I have a feeling that it happens. I really do. I have a feeling that it happens, and it's going to be part of the Stroman deal. It just seems like a Cashman move. It does. And if it does happen, the Yankees, I just hope they get St. Louis to eat a lot of that Stroman money, and I would hope they even add in like a Grisham or a Leiter or somebody with some money next to their name to even out the money as much as possible. I don't know. I would much rather them go after somebody who can give you better value, more bang for your buck. And I think Willie Castro is an interesting trade target. Minnesota is trying to clear some payroll. Willie Castro is not going to give you much of a bat. Although the last 2 seasons from Willie have been somewhat average. 2023, he posted a 750 OPS. Last year, he dipped to a 716. Again, better than what you have. He's got a good glove, a good arm. He's got some speed. He's a switch hitter. He's cheap, and he's relatively young. He's 27 years old, and he's making only $6 million in the upcoming season. So I think Willie Castro, at this point, wouldn't be a terrible signing. It's something there that's resembling an MLB starter, which I don't think you have in your in-house options right now. Cabrera, I like the kid. I don't think he's a starter. He hasn't hit since his rookie year. He's had occasional hot stretches, but I think he hits the ball on the ground too much. I think the fact that he can't hit from the right side at all has become a problem. I don't trust him every day in a lineup that has question marks as much as the Yankees do. Peraza is interesting. I'm kind of, my buddy Greg from Yankee Crazy Podcast, who's coming on, he'll be on this month and he's been on the show a bunch before, is a big Peraza guy, and he's kind of getting me thinking about it lately. I'm kind of talking myself back into Oswald Peraza. I don't know. Like, the defensive stuff I love about him. He's a very strong infielder. He's got a great glove. He's smooth over there with the glove. He's got an exceptionally strong arm. Very good instincts. He's got speed and range. I don't think he's a problem at all with the glove. And remember, he's a former top prospect who just 2 years ago, it was him battling Volpe out of camp. But he lost because Volpe had the better spring training and Torres was playing second for the Yankees at the time. So it's not like Peraza's some unranked prospect like Cabrera was. Peraza was actually highly touted by the Yankees. And if I'm correct, I think he was at one point in the top 100 on the pipeline. But the question is there enough bat? He has not shown that he has a bat yet at the major league level. It's been a small sample, but it's been enough to where people are kind of losing hope on him. You look at the scouting report on Oswald Peraza from the last time he was considered a prospect in 2023. He was graded 60 in run, 60 in arm, and 60 in field, which matches up what we just said. And then rated out as completely average 50 in both hit and power tool. So, can he be average at the plate? You know, that same scouting report. Good bat speed for a shortstop. Decent loft on his swing. He's got some pull power, which I guess isn't great for Yankee Stadium as a righty. But he's got a patient and contact-oriented approach. And he did rake in AAA last year. But I think we're getting to a point with Peraza. He's out of options. He's completely out of options, and it doesn't seem like the Yankees are too fond of him. They don't love him. So there could very well be a chance where Peraza's not on this team in April. You know, I would much rather Peraza than LeMahieu, which I'm not even going to bother talking about. I would much rather Peraza than Yorbit Vivas, who I think is too small, and I don't know. I don't know, man. Just, they need to do something. Nothing crazy at this point. You know, we're at a point where I think we all know if they make a next move, it's not going to be major. But just get a stopgap to get us to the trade deadline. Somebody who can pick it a little bit and be an occasional threat at the plate. But that's third base. They still have to figure out who's going to be backing up Wells. That's not as important because backup catchers are pretty easy to find. You just got to find someone who can catch, not hit. But Trevino's gone, and Alex Jackson came in that deal. Is it him? We'll see. Do you find somebody out of camp? Is it J.C. Asara? Is it Flores, I think you brought him in? I don't know. Whoever it is, you hope it's a right-handed batter. I don't like a lefty-lefty platoon at catcher. But that's that. And that's it regarding the lineup. I want to go to the mound. And we'll start with the bullpen. The Yankees lost Clay Holmes in their bullpen. And did they lose anybody else? I feel like they did, and I'm forgetting. They definitely did. But in terms of significant arms that I can remember, they lost Clay Holmes. But they added Devin Williams, Fernando Cruz, and Jonathan Loaizaga. The improvements in their bullpen this year, I think they've added swing and miss, a little bit of firepower, and they're much deeper. Right, the back end of that pen is elite with Devin Williams and Luke Weaver. Weaver is coming off an excellent breakout campaign. He can now slide back into his 7th, 8th inning role. He's a guy who gets a ton of swing and miss. That changeup is a weapon. He's got a fastball with some velo. I would like to see him lean into the cutter a little bit more this year, just to have a pitch that can go in a different direction, away to righties and into lefties. Something you could tunnel with your changeup. But it's going to be interesting to see his lane. I mean, he's going to be 7th, 8th inning, but he's going to be a multiple innings guy. Are they going to try to use him a little less this year because they did lean into him a lot last year? Maybe you save him for October. But Luke Weaver in the back of that bullpen and then going to Devin Williams after Luke Weaver is filthy. And Devin Williams, we know about him. His resume is excellent. He's consistently giving you ERAs under 2. You know, he's was recently rated as the number 1 relief pitcher in baseball. He's going to be closing games for you. That's such an upgrade over Clay Holmes. He's got that swing and miss changeup, which is called the airbender. It's got this screwball-like movement to it. It's filthy. You just hope he stays healthy because he missed the majority of last season. And then you go to the middle of the bullpen. The middle relief core is interesting. It's got a lot of guys who could break out, I think. And a lot of guys who could just continue their career paths of being meh. Fernando Cruz, we've talked about him plenty of times already. He's got that swing and miss with the splitter, filthy splitter, one of the better splitters in baseball. Him working with Matt Blake, maybe you tap into something there. I would keep an eye on Fernando Cruz. Speaking of splitters, you got Mark Leiter, who obviously struggled big time last year. But he did step up a little bit in the postseason. And you never know. Maybe a full off season and a full camp with Matt Blake can help you unlock something. He's also got swing and miss with a lot of bite on that splitter. Jake Cousins. Speaking of breakout candidates, I do think this guy's going to actually break out. If there's one guy I could choose to have a really good year for the Yankees, it's going to be Jake Cousins. I love Jake Cousins' stuff. I am very high on him. He gets a ton of whiff. You talk about swing and miss. This guy and his ability, again, we talk pitch tunneling, the 2-seam slider sequencing that he can go to. I mean, he's got great break with that slider, and he's got enough velocity, and the 2 seams rated as a good pitch, as an above-average pitch. It's such a filthy combination, especially when he's facing righties. He's excellent versus righties. He's still good versus lefties, but he's just got to work on his control. You know, he's got to work on the control, a lot of free passes in the playoffs, and stay healthy. You know, obviously dealt with a pec injury late in the year last year, but you need him to stay healthy. And if he's healthy, I think Jake Cousins, under this pitching staff, Matt Blake and company, I think will be elite. Ian Hamilton. I've always liked him. You know, he's another guy, swing and miss stuff. That 4-seamer, the 2-seamer, he can get up to 98, 99 with that thing. And obviously he throws that Slombio pitch. Change-up grip, more of a slider action to it. Gets him a ton of swing and miss. Gets him some ground balls. But you're worried about Ian Hamilton's health. He's had a crazy up and down career where he has missed significant time. So, consistency is a question with him. Jonathan Lasagna's back. Another hard thrower. He's more of a ground ball guy with that 2-seam 99 in on the hands. Will get you to pound it into the dirt. He'll throw that front door 2-seamer to righties. Has a nice curveball. It's got good shape. When he does get swing and miss, it's off that curveball. But with Lasagna, it's command and control. He'll leave some pitches up, and that leads to a lot of hard contact. A couple more hits than you want. He'll walk a lot of batters. So it's command and control, and it's obviously health with him. He has never been healthy. So I would, like to use him for an inning, less than an inning, just to keep him healthy. Don't use him in that multiple innings role that you've tried too many times before, because that doesn't help. Tim Hill is back. The Yankees made it official today. Obviously, he's kind of a different look, right? Ground ball, weak contact with a two-seamer. He's a different arm angle, though. That lefty submarine guy, he's tough to pick up. Excellent pitcher versus lefties. So you got your guy to get that lefty on lefty lane. But I do worry, guys that don't have good stuff or swing and miss stuff like Tim Hill, who throws 88, 89 and doesn't have a breaking pitch to go to other than, an occasional slider, which he doesn't really throw. At that age, you worry about that. Is what he did last year for 30-something games sustainable? It's four-seamer and two-seamer. And he doesn't really throw the four-seam. It's just that sinker. So, yeah. Scott Efros. Are we finally going to see a healthy season from him? I don't know. If you do, speaking of arm angles, another guy from the right side kind of drops his arm angle. Good two-seam slider combination. When he's healthy, he's effective. The resume says so. But he's also never been healthy. And then you got depth arms. You got your Will Warrens. You got Clayton Beater. You got Gomez. You got Brubaker. Maybe missing one or two guys that could be fighting for a spot out of camp. There's always going to be some new names that make the team. But that's your bullpen. And it's a bullpen that I think has potential. A lot of depth, a lot of whiff. You worry about the health. I think I would love one more lefty pitcher. I'm still hoping out. I'm still holding out on Andrew Chafin. I think that'd be a perfect guy to go get. Lefty who gets a lot of swing and miss with that breaking ball he throws. So maybe get another lefty. Do they have enough velocity in the bullpen? Again, if they're healthy, I think there's enough velo. But it is an if. And then you go to your rotation. For as good as the bullpen is, some might argue the rotation has higher upside. Because you basically turned Stroman into Fried. You turned a number 5 starter into a number 2 starter. That's what you did. Max Fried. Max Fried's legit, folks. I am really excited for Fried. He's got an incredible resume that helps you feel comfortable. He's consistently been a very solid pitcher, especially in recent years. Very deep pitch mix in Max Fried. He's got a good sinker. That's where he gets those high ground ball rates and a lot of weak contact. That's what he's going to do. With the improved defense in the infield this year, Max Fried is going to benefit from that. Really good pitch, that sinker. Induces a ton of ground ball outs. The four-seam fastball is not super hard, but maybe that's a good thing for, you talk about the 8th year added to the contract. For a guy who doesn't rely heavily on his four-seamer, you can make a positive spin on that. And he's got a good left-handed curveball. Really good curveball. It's got good shape, great break, good spin, gets a lot of swing and miss with the curve. Max Fried's curveball is one of the better in the game. You could throw in guys ahead of him, certainly. Kershaw's curveball, I think, is far and away the best, but lefty curveballs, Max Fried could be 2 on that list. Then you're talking about Carlos Rodon entering his third year in pinstripes. Last year he was solid. He 8 innings. He made every start through the rotation. I think pitch sequencing is going to be key with Rodon this year. Knowing when to go to what pitch. Four-seam command is going to be key for him. He only throws about 95 on average, so he's going to have to locate it. And that was a problem last year. Last year, he had some home run issues when he didn't locate the four-seamer. It led to 21 home runs off the four-seamer. Hitters slugged .514 against the pitch. So if he's not locating that four-seamer, especially on those days where he's not throwing 97, 98, which he can at times, on the days where he's closer to 95, he's got to be able to command that four-seamer up out of the zone when he goes upstairs with it. Went to the curveball a little more than usual, hung it a lot. That got him into some trouble. But he's got a great slider. We know his slider is excellent. He goes mostly to righties with the slider. He goes backdoor slider where he starts on the outside, where he starts outside the zone with it, and then it clips the outer edge. Very good at doing that. He'll occasionally throw that back foot slider to lefties. And the changeup was good. I love the fact that he doubled the usage on the changeup last year. He went to it a lot more. It was obviously an exclusive pitch to righties, going away from righties. And it got a lot of fade to it, which induced swing and miss, and it was a good pitch for him. So leading into the changeup is going to be key. But Rodon, I'm curious to see what he's got this year. Is there enough, or is there something he can tap into that makes him worth the contract a little bit more? You know, obviously that comes down to what he does in October, but would love for Rodon to pitch to a sub 3.5, because that is what they paid him for. Not holding my hopes up, but like that'd be great. That'd be a nice surprise. Luis Gil. The fact that your rookie of the year is like overshadowed now. It's crazy, because this is a kid with unhittable stuff. Unhittable stuff. Literally all the numbers on his pitches, just unhittable. A fastball with incredible velocity to it. He's got an improving changeup and slider to where he used them both at a pretty even rate last year. Got some good results. Obviously needs to work on the fastball command. A lot of those mislocated fastballs led to hard hit balls, because when you throw hard, when they make contact with it, it's going to go a long way. Work on the walks. That limits how far he can go deep into games. And you just want him to stay healthy. Last year, he reached the innings limit. They had to fake the injury down the stretch for him. So you're hoping he's healthy this year, and they can let him go. Luis Gil, I'm very curious to see what we get. I feel like he's one of those low floor, high ceiling guys, you know, just because of how erratic he can be. Clark Schmidt, I'm excited for Clark Schmidt. He had a great year last year before the injury. But he's always been an interesting guy, man. You know, everything he throws moves. A deep pitch mix with a lot of movement on his fastballs and breaking and off-speed stuff. Got more swing and miss last year than he usually did in the past, which was nice to see. Leaning into the deep pitch mix, he got better versus lefties. He avoided the extra base hit problem, which gave him issues in the past with his command. So, just got to stay healthy, and I'd like for him to go deeper into the games, and obviously that's fine-tuning the command. And I think the type of pitcher he is, he throws a lot of waste and, again, just a lot of movement on his pitches. He's never going to be a guy who goes 6-7 consistently, but he's your number 5 now. That's how deep your staff is. He's your number 5. This is crazy. Garrett Cole is key. I still think Garrett Cole is the key to this rotation. If Garrett Cole is healthy, okay, and you worry about the health because of his age, because he's coming off an injury, and the metrics have been declining. But if he is healthy, and he's healthy enough to be an ace still. He doesn't have to be a Cy Young Award winner anymore. But if he's healthy enough to be an ace for this staff, this is going to be the best rotation in baseball. Maybe the Dodgers are better. The Seattle Mariners have a case, but I can't put the Yankees lower than 3. That's a good staff. So I think Garrett Cole's the key. And to keep him healthy, maybe you conserve a little bit for the playoffs. If he's pitching, 6 strong versus the Oakland A's and his pitch count's at 80, maybe you don't need him to go 7 for the Las Vegas A's. You don't need him to do the extra shit in some games. Maybe have some type of limit to where you're conserving him for October ball. But that's your starting 5. And currently you got, Stroman and Carrasco as depth pieces at the moment. Maybe, again, Warren, Beater, Gomez. Is Hampton going to play a role this year? We'll see. But that's a good 5. And the only thing I would say, I would love to move Heel to the 3 spot and have Rodon 4 just to stagger. When Russ joined the show a couple episodes ago, he mentioned bringing Schmidt from 5 to 3. That's something they could do. But yeah. We're going to go over some other guys in the lineup, some player expectations that we'll touch on some players that we haven't touched on yet when we return from our break here. So stay with us. We'll get to that in just a sec. Hey guys, just a quick reminder, this podcast is also available in video format on YouTube. So be sure to go over to the YouTube channel, BD4, subscribe, like the videos, comment, and tell me how much I suck or maybe how much you like the video. We'd very much appreciate it. Okay, welcome back to the show. Episode 800 of BD4. Appreciate you all tuning in as always. Talk a little bit expectations for some of these players. Austin Wells, I'm curious to see what we get this year from him. Obviously got the lefty pop. He's got a very good eye. Last year he had a good year with the Yankees. But he tapered off a bit down the stretch. He struggled in September. That bleeded into October. Maybe it was the workload. The everyday reps. He struggled against left-handed pitching last year. With more reps, I think will come more consistency. So I hope that Aaron Boone doesn't run from that flaw. I'm going to be watching out for how he does on those fastballs at the top of the zone, above the zone. That gave him some problems. And again, with that swing type that he has, that's never going to be something he's going to be able to drive with power. It's just about being more selective and laying off some of those pitches to improve the on-base percentage numbers, to slug a little more, to drive the ball more consistently. That's what we want to see from Wells. He's a really good low ball hitter. So continue to pounce on those low pitches. Paul Goldschmidt going to first base. Interesting. Interesting. Obviously, you're bringing in a veteran with experience. Going into his 15th major league season. It's a guy with playoff experience. He's got 6 different postseasons under his belt, all with productive numbers. He's still very durable. He's still playing, as much as he's regressed, 150 plus every year. He can hit left-handed pitching. Still hit lefties well last year. The Yankees had an issue with lefties last year. And what I'm keeping an eye on, Paul Goldschmidt's hard hit numbers are still there. As much as he's declined or he declined last year, he still hits the ball there. He still hits the ball hard. Exit velocity, hard hit percentage, barrel, those numbers were all good. And so when you combine the fact that he's still hitting the ball hard and you take a look at his spray chart, still hits the ball to right field, bringing him to Yankee Stadium, those two things add up to some good things. Maybe gives you some good news. Guy who hits the ball hard and goes the other way, bring that into the Bronx. 25 plus. He did have a strong second half last year. He's got a solid glove. We know that, even though that did regress to more average defense last year. Rizzo was a mess on both ends. But then there's the other side of it. Paul Goldschmidt's old. The metrics are declining. The results-based numbers did decline last year. He could easily go out there and be worse than the 96 OPS bat he was last year, whatever that number was. Does Ben Rice have to play a role at some point? Is there some kind of lefty-righty platoon that we see? Ben Rice is a kid who got a shot last year, started hot, tapered off, got sent back down when Rizzo was called up from the injury. Ben Rice can hit a fastball. We know that. He's got good bat control. He stays inside the zone. He has a good eye. Nice left-handed swing. Does he get another shot at some point? I don't know. Other side of the infield, Jazz Chisholm. Curious to see what we get. He's had a solid career. Came to the Yankees and he was a lot more than solid. A lot of Yankees fans think he could be in for a 30-30 year. He's got the tools to do it. He's got the speed. He's got the lefty power. He's also got a glove. And now he's moving back to his natural position at second base. Probably. I like Jazz Chisholm to break out for 30-30. It's just all going to be about his approach. He swings a lot. He misses a lot. Two-strike approach. Speaking of, Anthony Volpe. We know his glove is excellent. We know he's a great runner. Yeah. Still hasn't hit yet at the major league level. And his approach needs to be consistent. Doesn't hit, doesn't walk, which is more concerning. Off-speed pitches, breaking balls, give him issues. He can hit the fastball a little bit, but he slugged just .344 against breaking balls last year, .224 slug versus off-speed pitches. In particular, it's the curveball, the changeup, and the sweeper that kill him. So he's got to figure out what approach he's bringing, what kind of swing he's going to have. He's going to have more of a level swing like he came into camp having last year. Is he going to have more loft on it like we saw in his rookie year? Because he lacked power last year. So that's all going to be, his pull percentage was down 17% last year. It was also 7% lower than league average pull hitter. Everything on StatCast was below average except for his whiff and square up percentage. Everything else blew. So the power is interesting. I would much rather Anthony Volpe hit for power than to slap base hits the other way with no power. I would take his rookie season over what we saw last year for sure. Because there's a threat. And so hopefully he builds off what we saw in the playoffs where he was spitting on pitches on the outer edge and driving the ball a little bit and getting on base. We'll see. You go to the outfield. Cody Bellinger. Great glove, great speed. He's done it before. He's got the lefty pop. He can provide that. Again, I think it's important that Bellinger hits in front of Aaron Judge. But I'm interested to see how he slugs. Does he slug? He hasn't been much of a power threat lately. He went to Chicago, hit for a lot more contact. The swing was a lot more contact oriented. He didn't hit the ball as hard. Does that affect him? You're hoping it doesn't. Leaving Wrigley where the wind blew in, coming into Yankee Stadium with the short porch. You're hoping he can still hit you at least 23 plus. But he's a guy who's had a hell of an up and down career. He's had seasons where he looks like an MVP. He's had seasons where he looks like an all-star. He's had seasons where he looks like he doesn't belong at the major league level. What kind of Cody Bellinger are the Yankees going to get this year? Aaron Judge, there's not much to say. Just stay healthy and do it in October. I don't care if you hit 55 home runs, 75 home runs, 35 home runs. If you do your job in October, I'll love you. If you don't, come on, bro. You know, he's got to do it when it matters. Stanton does it when it matters. I just need Stanton to be healthy. He's still productive when he's out there. His regular season last year wasn't bad. But he's all about October. So get him to October. That's my goal with Stanton. Just, we'll see you in October. You do your thing where you miss months because you pulled a pinky, whatever. As long as we see you in October, we're cool. Dominguez, first full season in the Bronx. So much to like about this kid. The switch bat, the power, the pop from the left side, the bat speed. He hits the ball super hard. He's got the power numbers at the big league level so far. We've seen that. The plate discipline looks good. He's got speed. He's got a good arm. I'm not worried about the reads in left field. I think he'll figure that out. Just got to work on the right side of the plate. Add more loft to that swing. Consistency from the right side. I think he'll be fine. Just stay healthy. Please stay healthy. That's already been a little bit of a... But that's it. Camp begins just a few days. The roster was announced with your 26 non-roster invitees. And some of the more notable names on that list, Spencer Jones, obviously the Yankees' current top prospect, who had a very up and down season last year. A lot of power, but also too many strikeouts. Do you see him at some point? Do you see him in September? We'll see. George Lombard Jr. has been invited to camp. One of their bigger prospects. He recently made it onto the top 100 pipeline. Roderick Arias, international prospect from a few years ago who they signed. Chase Hampton, who's been one of their better pitching prospects for a bit. Does he play a role on the team this year at some point? Rafael Flores, backup catcher. That's a guy, maybe. TJ Rumfield, first baseman people like. I think he's a lefty. Actually, I don't know. I'm not sure if he's a lefty. Carlos Carrasco. I doubt he breaks camp. Squid, Andrew Velazquez, former Yankee fan favorite for a couple of minutes. You know, that's basically, Dom Smith. I know that name from the Mets. First baseman. Colton Brewer, former Yankee reliever. He's back. Alex Jackson, we talked about him for a second. Backup catcher, maybe he's the guy. He's from that Cincy deal. But overall, folks, that's it. We'll wrap it up. Talk about our final expectations when we return from our final break here on the show. Episode 800 here on the show. Stay with us. If you feel like supporting the podcast, you can Venmo at Robert-Carbone-JR-28. We really appreciate your support. Do you enjoy Yankees baseball but are tired of hearing me yap? I have a suggestion for you. Go check out Yankee Crazy Podcast. Greg Gill is a Yankees podcaster on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and he's now selling merch. Go to yankeecrazy.myshopify.com. Stay connected with us. Visit BD4blog.com to explore our blog, tune into our latest podcasts, and follow us on social media. Thank you for being a part of this community. All right, welcome back to the show. Episode 800 of the podcast. I appreciate you all for tuning in. I really do. Yeah, man, this is coming. The season's coming. It's creeping up on us, but like, I'm so excited, man. I'm ready. I'm still ready for it. You know, you look at some of the projections. The PECOTA projections came out just a couple of days ago. They give the Yankees a 9% chance to win the World Series. I believe that's second to the Dodgers. So the Dodgers are like 23% or something like that. But they do have the Yankees winning the American League East with 90 games. They've also got the Yankees coming out of the American League, and they have them with the fourth best win total in Major League Baseball. So I would agree with all those. You know, I can see each of those things happening. I do think they'll have some less wins in the regular season, but the trade-off doesn't make them more well-rounded, right? Does it help increase their chances in October? So that's the big question. And I love, again, I can't say it was a bad offseason. I would say it's somewhere in the B range. Is it a B? Is it a B minus? Is it a B plus? I don't know if I can go that high, but it's somewhere in the B. I give it a B because I love what they did with the pitching, both in the rotation and in the pen. And I love what they did defensively. And I think they'll be better on the bases. No Torres, no number 22. Dominguez is here. You know, Chisholm's here for a full season. Bellinger, I think, is a good runner. So I think they'll be better. Pitching, defense, base running, I think that'll all be at least above average. At least. My only question being the lineup. And MLB Network put out a little bit of a position rollout. I think this was this morning, or maybe a couple days ago. I don't know. I saw it this morning. MLB Network position rollout on their Instagram. And they had basically what everybody else has. They have Cole, Fried, Rodon, Heel, Schmidt in the rotation. They've got left to right in the outfield, Dominguez, Bellinger, Judge. And in the infield from first to third, they've got Goldschmidt, Jazz, Volpe, Cabrera, and then Stanton DH. So that's not surprising. Again, we'll see what happens at third base. That's the biggest question mark. And if they can figure out third base, and if they go and get a third baseman, that's like better than what they have. Please don't be Arenado. I don't want it to be Arenado. But if they can get a third baseman that's better than what they have, that B becomes a B plus. You know, I hesitate to say A minus because you did lose one of the greater left-handed power hitters of all time, so I can't really go there. But like, I am much happier with this offseason if they get something credible to play third base this year. So we'll see what happens, folks. That's it. That's our part one of the preview. In the previews that we got coming up, part 2, part 3, we're gonna have some guests on the show. So look forward to that. I think Greg Gill from Yankee Crazy Podcast will be joining us next week, so that'll be coming out soon. But episode 800's in the books. I really appreciate you all tuning in, and we're going to wrap it up right here at about an hour and 15. So appreciate you if you stayed through the entire way. See you very soon. Go Yankees. Well, if you made it this far, that means you listened to or watched the entire episode. Thank you. Just remember to follow, subscribe, download, rate and review, and all that fun stuff to help out the podcast. And I will see you in the next episode of BD4.